All right, so third step, or fourth technically, we are going to be adding the handle and the feet. So at this point I have my combined vessel. I made the two pinch pots, I combined them. This one was the one that I tried to make a closer to a perfect sphere. I cut my lid. This one I did at an angle so that it fits. And this one's like, it's not a perfect circle, so it has to fit a certain way. That's fine. And right now I need to add a foot or feet and then some sort of handle. I'm showing you guys a very simple example. I hope that you guys can do something a little bit more creative than what I'm going to show you. So thinking about how you can work the handle and the feet into your design, whether it's an abstract design and you are just adding an interesting shape to the top, or the feet are just kind of accentuating the shape of the vessel itself, or if it's a part of the design. So like if it's like a feet of a creature, or if it's wheels on the car, whatever your design is, try to think about how the handle and the feet can really accentuate that design. All right, so there's my lid and my vessel, okay? So I'm going to show you guys a very simple way to add a foot first, and then maybe how you could add multiple feet if you're interested in doing like 3 or 4 feet on the bottom to add to your design. And then I'll show you a very simple handle as well. Again, I hope you guys think a little bit more creatively than what I'm showing you as an example. I just wanted to show you the technique so that when you're ready to add your pieces to your, or add your handle and your feet to your piece, you know how to do it. So yeah, so here, I'll bring you guys down here. So here's my fresh clay. Again, you guys know that this is at the leather hard stage because you cut your lid, and it had to be kind of at that stage in order to do that without crushing it. So I'm going to show you guys just a simple coil foot. So I'm rolling out a coil now. So I just took a chunk of clay. I'm trying to roll it so that it's consistent, so that the foot is going to be the same height all the way around. One thing about rolling coils is sometimes you'll feel it go flat, and then when you're rolling it, it'll kind of flop on you. One trick is to kind of spin it. So hold it on one end, kind of twist it, and then start rolling it again, and that'll kind of smooth things out again. It doesn't have to be perfect, just try to make it as consistent as possible so that it's the same height. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I am going to figure out, how big I want it to be. I don't want it to be huge because I don't really want it to show too much. I just need it to hold it so that my vessel doesn't roll around, right? Because it's got that round bottom because of the pinch pot. So I'm going to cut one end of my coil, figure out how big I want it to be. So I'm going to probably go around that big, and I'm going to, I cut it at an angle so that they would kind of fit back together, like so. That's not completely necessary. I just think it's nice not to have the extra clay to kind of have to peel away. So since this is all plastic clay, I don't have to worry too much about scoring and slipping that seam. I'm going to compress it as much as I can and blend it really good, but it should be okay. Now when I add it to the vessel, it's very important to score and slip, right? Because I'm adding plastic clay to leather hard. So that's where the score and slip is going to be very important. All right, so I've got my little donut. I'm going to kind of tap it on the table, make it nice and flat on the bottom there. And I can come back in and refine the shape of the foot once it's connected and everything. Right now, my point is to attach it. So at this point, what I would do is I want to make sure it's placed on my vessel. I don't really want it off to the side because I don't want to risk the lid kind of falling off. So I'm going to try to put it right below my lid. My lid is here. My foot is like kind of directly below it. So you can see that's where I would put this ring here. And using my needle tool, I'm going to just trace where that is. I could even trace on the inside of it. So I can see where I need to score the surface. All right, so I've got that. I'm going to open up the surface of the fresh clay also. So I also want to score the fresh clay so that moisture can transfer between the two, like we've talked about before. All right, so I've got both pieces scored. I'm going to take my slip here, add that. Again, don't be afraid to add a lot to the leather hard piece because you really want to make sure it has the opportunity to absorb that moisture. And I'm going to put this on here. I'm going to kind of compress it. One way to compress it really well is just to kind of tap it on the table. At this point, I can come in with like the molding tool and kind of try to blend that there. This probably would stay if I just really made sure I compressed it really well. If you're worried about the seam and you want to reinforce it, just like we did with when we combined our pinch pots, you could make a very small coil. Because you don't want to add a lot of extra clay because it's just more cleanup later. But a real small coil, and you could attach it here and just kind of push it in just to reinforce that seam there. And I would do that all the way around. I'm not going to do that now because I'm trying to save you guys some time watching me do this, but blend it so it looks nice, but that'll reinforce that seam. So there's that. That's just the simple ring foot. Kind of hold it flat on the surface so that it's not rolling around on you. Very easy, simple foot to make. So let's say I wanted to make something a little bit more interesting. This is perfectly interesting. But I decided I wanted to do like 3 feet. You could do 2 kind of bigger ones if it holds it upright. You can do 3 feet. You can do 4 feet. Totally up to you and your design. I'm just going to smooth out what I just did with the scoring and slipping there. Kind of clean up that surface again. All right, so let's say I wanted to make 3 kind of pointed feet. So now I'm going to take some fresh clay. I want to kind of make sure that they're about the same amount of clay. I'm going to shape them into maybe little cones. I think I'll go with cones. Okay, so there's one. All right, so I've kind of quickly formed these little feet that I want to attach to my vessel. So I'm you want to think carefully about where you're placing these. I'm just trying to get an idea of how this would sit. So it would sit kind of like this, which I kind of like. So I'm going to do is I just kind of like lightly stuck those on there. Now again, I'm going to come back. I'm going to trace where those are going to be, where I need to score to attach them. And then 2, I want to, when I'm placing them on the table, I'm going to try to keep them in the same order that I'm going to be placing them back on here. So this one goes here, this one here, and this one here, just so I don't lose track of which piece I had where. Score the surface here. And then I want to make sure I score the bottom or the feet where they're going to attach. All right. And again, you guys should know this process by now. Adding slip, plenty of it so that it has a lot of moisture to exchange. Doesn't have to be pretty. All right, so I'm going to, and again, I need to be really careful of my edge here. I want to make sure I don't damage that. So if I set it on the table, I don't want to be pushing on it because that's going to deform how the lid fits. So I want to make sure I'm careful when I'm doing that. Now, if you're making feet that are really fragile and very, if it was a thin foot or something, fancier than what I'm doing, you might even want to wait for your feet to become leather hard before you attach them. That's up to you. It really depends on your design. And if you have questions, just please ask. I'm happy to help you figure it out. So I'm just going to kind of blend this together. And as I'm doing this, I'm kind of reshaping the foot too. I can always come back later and do that as well. Focus right now is just to make sure that it blends, it connects, the clay is compressed so that it can become part of that other clay body. All right, so if I was worried about these feet not staying together, I could always make that thin coil again, go around that seam and blend that in just to reinforce that connection. This feels pretty good to me. I'm just going to kind of tap it a little bit. I can kind of put this back on here, try to see where it fits here. This might have been a good one for a notch, huh? So if you look at it straight on, you can kind of see, do I like how that looks? I think it looks decent. I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm going to leave those feet as is. Now we want to talk about the handle, and I'm just going to make a simple one just for demonstration. You could do whatever you wanted to. You can make a little animal or something to go on top. You could make something fancy. Hopefully you do something a little bit more creative. You could do something like this. So it's got a little loop, and I could just lift it up that way. You could make a little ball to go on top. I'm kind of hoping you guys think a little bit more out of the side of the box than that. For this one, I'm just going to do a simple shape just to get you guys going. All right, so I'm going to make this little triangle. I don't know what that's supposed to be, but we'll go with it. So again, same thing as the foot, okay? Same process. I would trace this where it's going to connect. I would score it really good on both sides. So on the piece I'm attaching as well as the base. Take my slip, be generous with it, and compress that on there. At this point, I would blend it. If I need a coil to reinforce that seam, I can. And then I would let this dry overnight with the lid in place. Again, just remember, you want this all to dry together so that the lid doesn't warp or change shape if it's exposed to air differently than the other piece. Just make sure it's all drying together so that it dries at the same pace and stays in the right shape. So that is adding foot or feet and handle to your lidded vessel. Okay? If you have questions, let me know.